What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Real Talks podcast. My name is Mike Singletary.
And I am Frank Chen, and we are going to be your hosts. And what we're going to do is break down what it takes to live life on your terms through entrepreneurship, specifically real estate investing.
So we're going to hit it hard, the good, the bad, and the real, because that climb, as any entrepreneur knows, is never smooth. So let's get real.
Today, guys, we have an awesome guest for you. His name is Drew Haney, and he's a partner at the renowned real estate development firm Circle Stone Capital, and really leverages his military background and entrepreneurial acumen to spearhead innovative projects. Now, after a successful career as an Army officer in his 20s, Drew now ventures into entrepreneurship, founding multiple companies that specialize in unlocking the hidden potential of vacant land. Now, his strategic thinking, disciplined approach, and ability to identify promising locations have really earned him accolades in the industry. Now, with a strong commitment to sustainability and community engagement, Drew's developments have really revitalized local communities while creating exceptional value. And now, as a collaborative leader, he really does forge strong partnerships with stakeholders and investors, ensuring that his projects align with the needs and aspirations of the community. Now, with his impeccable track record and unwavering dedication to excellence, Drew continues to shape the real estate landscape, leaving a very lasting and positive impact. But more importantly, his values within faith, family, and freedom. Drew, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you, my brother?
My man.
Hey, guys. Where did you guys find that bio? Did you Google? Did Kelly send that to you?
Yes. But I also thought it was really well written, so I was like, "Let's rumble." Was it okay? How was it?
Did we miss anything there?
Do we do you justice?
No, I'm trying to think where you guys would have pulled that from, because I had ChatGPT write it, and then I'm trying to think, like, is that on the internet somewhere, or did Kelly, my assistant, send it? I'm just excited to meet you guys, because I actually don't know either of you. Mike, I think you and I were in one mastermind meeting together.
Which one, man?
I don't even know. My week is such a blur.
This is a great start, by the way, guys. And this is the power of podcasting, is that we get to learn about each other. You guys get to experience this conversation out of the gate, which is awesome. And you can explore us, we can explore you, and hopefully people get value of what we talk about today, man.
Oh, you know what? It was Travis King's, I think.
Oh, right? Yeah. So it was the online one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I want to learn about you guys.
Yeah.
You guys sound like you do more than just land.
Well, I'll tell you this. This guy does a lot. I do something different, but we're combining our powers because we're all in the real estate vein.
Yeah.
So I do affiliate consulting for real estate education products, softwares, and services. So basically help connect people, their products, to other affiliate, communities, and just offer guidance and finding clarity within people's affiliate programs. So that's kind of where my expertise lies. I do some investing. I have some syndication deals I'm a part of. But that's kind of the extent of my investing. I'm very, very, very part-time. So Mike's much deeper on that side.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more than he is. I mean, Frank's being, modest right now. He's really good at what he does on the affiliate side, probably the best in our industry on that. As far as me, man, we have an investment side, and then we have a data side, right? Which incorporates, kind of VA recruiting and training. But on the data side, we sell property data. We sell, tier one skip tracing at wholesale prices. We do it in mass volume. So for people that has a platform that just link to us through API, and we're the source for platforms. But it puts us in touch. We have probably about, I just found this out. I should know this. We have about 4,500 people within our user base. I always thought it was a lot less than that, truthfully. But it gives us an opportunity to really have our fingerprints in a lot of different people's business. So it's great, man. It's a lot of fun. And I just started buying land probably about, January. I was always in houses. I've been doing houses for the last 8 years, right? So now that I'm in land, we still do both. Man, I love it. I love land.
It's simple.
It's simple, but I think the biggest problem for guys like me was overcomplicating it.
Okay.
Doing too much, because there's most guys that I know that do land have a very small team, right? and they all do direct mail. I'm an outreach guy, so I'm a cold calling guy, right?
Okay.
So we're just now incorporating more direct mail, but it's more in a sequence pattern. Like we get a list of 50,000, we'll cold call them first, figure out what the right person contact is, say that's, half of that, and then we'll direct mail the rest.
Okay.
So, yeah. So essentially that's what we do, brother. Let's talk about you. It's not about us, man. This is about you, brother. You know what I mean? So tell us about your journey, man.
Yeah, my journey. Well, you guys heard the ChatGPT version.
Yeah, not bad.
No, it's good. It's it's all truth in there, sort of, right? It polished truth. Yeah, spent my 20s in the Army, jumped out of some airplanes, went to Korea, left the Army from Korea. I stayed in Korea as a civilian, day trading.
Oh, nice.
Which was one of the most fun seasons of my life. So Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week, he says to take a quarter life retirement. And I did that. So for 2 years, all I did was day trade. I did whatever I wanted. I had a probably low 6-figure, maybe high 5-figure nest egg that I'd saved up from my salary. I'd just gotten married. My wife is ethnically Asian, but she's 3rd-generation American. We met in Korea. She was teaching business classes there at a university. So she's doing her thing, just being a foodie and in one of the best countries in the world. I'm doing my day trading thing. And then I got kind of bored. And I realized, hey, I'm actually not making money doing this.
I was going to say, were you bored or did you get your ass kicked on that?
I'm sure you guys have heard, but it's like 90% of traders lose money.
Yeah.
10% make money. I broke even like every year, and I was trading legitimate money, which means I'm maybe like 90th percentile, right on that like break even point.
Yeah.
But I realized I'm like, this is not a sustainable way. And my wife was pregnant at the time. I think by the time I stopped day trading, our daughter was 1, our first kid. I'm like, you know what? This is not working. I need to get a real job. I took 2 years off. That was fun. Got it out of my system. Got the whole, because we all kind of dream like, hey, what would my life look like if I could just walk around really slowly and just do whatever I wanted all day, right? I did that, guys, and it's really boring. It's cool for like 3 weeks, and then you're like, you know what? I'm missing out. All my peers are learning and growing and being tested, and maybe, yeah, they're stressed out, but I am just being stagnant while I walk around this pretty lake looking at the flowers, right? So I came back to Kansas City, got a W-2 job as a auditor at a finance company. Then COVID immediately started. I went home to do my job. And I realized, hey, I can do this job in 2 hours a day, which leaves 6 hours a day of free time. So that's when I started the land flipping business. So started flipping land very quickly. Within the first year, I matched my salary from the W-2, quit my job maybe 6 months after that. So it's probably 18 months to quit my job from start to actually leaving. That was summer of 2020. So now it's almost 3.5 years later. I'm actually, I don't know how big your audience is. So like, I don't want to spread this news too much because I want these leads to keep coming in, but I'm actually, so I receive a ton of referral deals. Yeah. Like Ajay Sharma brought me 60 parcels portfolio just because I was the first guy who came to his mind. So I'm going to tell you guys this, but I also want to say, keep sending me leads. So I'm actually in the process of selling my first company. Oh, and nice. It's really cool because I'm keeping the assets, so the accounts receivable plus the inventory, and I'm selling the brand.
Okay.
I'm staying on as a minority partner so that when they use my branding, they use my face, it's still accurate. I'm still an owner of the company. But I'm getting less involved in the flipping cheap parcels in the middle of the desert. It's a great business model. It works. It provides a service to both the sellers and the buyers. But I have passion. I feel like I'm led towards this next project, which I'll share, which is the Circle Stone Capital, we are developing a technology that will compete with Boxable. So Boxable, do you guys know the startup in Vegas?
No, tell us. No, tell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me more.
So prefab and modular are terms that are a little bit implied negative or cheap construction, but offsite construction has been around for 100 years, right? Boxable is the startup in Vegas that Elon Musk has invested in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they create a tiny home in a factory. They ship it. I believe they ship it flat, and then they essentially turn a crank and it pops up, and it's like a nice tiny house, right? That's an oversimplification. Boxable has 170,000 pre-orders, and they've filled 500 in the past 3 years.
Wow.
So there's a huge demand, and they can't keep up with it. So we have a technology that we believe is slightly superior to theirs, and we are partnering with a company down in Mexico that builds them for us. So we already have our assembly lines up and running, and we will be ready to start selling these things very quickly, very soon. So we're excited because ours, we can ship 8 on one truck, 8 tiny homes.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So imagine the logistics of that. 18 tiny homes. A lot of the competitors, they'll ship them fully built. So they can fit like 2 on a truck, right? We ship ours flat, and then we do final assembly on site. So it's a steel galvanized frame. It exceeds earthquake standards, hurricane standards, tornado standards. And the city we are choosing to start in is Tucson, Arizona. The reason we are so excited about that city is because it has Arizona weather, but it doesn't have the Arizona water problems. The city of Tucson sits on 100 plus years of water. It sits on an aquifer that produces more water than it consumes. And Phoenix can't touch it. Okay. So, but there's a problem. Tucson is short 40,000 doors. So we're on a mission to fill that need with our new technology. This new technology is stackable, which means you can build hotels and apartment buildings from it. So imagine you have an entire building that's built offsite and just shipped. So you can isolate the cost, you can isolate the time frame. Of course, you are still dependent on supply chain constraints, right? But you can isolate a lot more variables, which means we can deliver more consistently. So that's the newest project. It's more than just a project. It consumes the majority of my time now, and really excited to share that with the world.
That sounds amazing, man. So is this technology proprietary or?
Yeah,
it is. Okay, awesome, man. And so who's your avatar? I'm sure it's a pretty big group of people, but do you have a defined avatar for this?
There's too much, right? So this can be used for army bases, mining communities, temporary housing. We can dress it up because the bones are good, right? So we can dress it up, put a really high-end finish on it, and we can put 2 or 3 or 4 together to make a 3-bed, 2-bath, for example. So currently our avatar is actually ourselves, which is a development firm that wants to build apartment buildings. So the avatar is us, and when we have time, we will sell these retail. I would say the least efficient way is to sell them one by one to people who want off-grid housing, right? But that will eventually be available. Probably in the next 6 months, you'll be able to order as little as 1. But right now, we're just working with people who want to do bulk orders. So we've got a guy in Florida who wants to do a retirement community for Navy veterans.
Oh, wow.
And so, he's going to order 30 boxes at once. And, that's large enough to where we'll spend a lot of time with him and customize exactly what he's looking for.
What's your threshold on that? Your minimum threshold?
You mean like minimum order?
Correct.
Order size?
Yeah.
We don't have an official one yet. Here's what we haven't had happen. Nobody's come to us and say, hey, I just want to order 1 box, right? We have not started even advertising to the public. So what we are doing, this might get me in trouble a little bit, but we are white labeling on top of an existing company in Mexico that has amazing technology but they need help distributing and marketing in the United States. So we take their bones, we slap our polish to it, and we sell this product to a market that we understand and they don't. So down in Mexico, they've already built entire hospitals out of this stuff.
Wow.
They can build in half the time as normal stick built.
I'm actually on your website right now taking a look at kind of these sample buildings at circlestonecapital.com. And, one of my first thoughts that comes to mind is like the senior living space. There's one company I know it specifically, which is the Residential Assisted Living Academy. And they teach their students how to buy like luxury homes or big, like 800K, million plus homes, pour in another million in there and turn it into a community. But I can see kind of the applications here would be much faster, quicker into specs without all the rehab in order to hit, like, I guess, state requirements to get funding and things like that. Have you guys ever considered working in the senior living space?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the 10 things we could do, right? There's just too much out there. We need to start somewhere, and we're going to start with apartments, which is what we know, and we know there's demand. So yeah, senior living, army bases for lower enlisted soldiers, mining communities, Indian reservations, anything that needs quick, quality housing, but they don't need a 5,000 square foot house. This is perfect. So I believe, and tell me what you guys think, I believe America is downsizing in terms of the space we think we need.
Yeah.
So I just moved from Kansas City. I lived in one of the nicest neighborhoods in the city. I had a beautiful house, 4,000 square feet. We used 20% of the house. Okay. What is that? 800 square feet? Yeah. We probably used 800 square feet out of the 4,000. Now we just moved to LA. We live in 900 square feet, and we're just as happy, if not more happy. Because before, my wife used to hang out in the front room. I would hang out in the back room because we both preferred either space. Now there's only one common space, which means we get to hang out all the time. So I believe smaller spaces is the future.
Well, affordable living is the future as well, obviously, right? So I don't know if you're able to share this, but if I had a piece of land, a large tract of land, and I wanted to build an apartment complex, I come to you. How does that pencil? Or is that too hard? Or is that too far down the road to answer that question right now?
So just being transparent, you will save money on costs, but not a ton. So using our product will be cheaper. However, where we really win against stick built is the time savings. Okay. And also we can isolate more variables. So there's less waiting, right? If you get the boxes there, then you can build it. You're not waiting on a general contractor. You're not waiting on anyone else. So we can, out of a 24-month build, we can shave 9 months off that.
Oh, wow.
Or more. I mean, a lot of the waiting time is approvals, as you guys know.
Like every time I hear, there's a better, bigger, better, quicker, cheaper way. I think about quality. I think about stability. I think about these kind of, how do I break this, right? Why aren't more developers considering this as an option?
Right.
If it's better in every which way? What would we say is like the number one resistance that you're probably dealing with right now?
Yeah, I think there's a huge culture shift that needs to happen. So it's kind of sexy, but it's also kind of against the way we think. We always want to get bigger and better, right? So to go smaller is counterintuitive. So that's one thing. I think us working with foreign builders is a turnoff to Americans. But let's look at the domestic builders. Boxable can't build their product. They can't get it out, right? So I think also Boxable's technology, at least as of what I know, is it's not stackable, right? So another delay is we need policymakers to catch up, right? We need them to understand that this is superior to stick built, and that they need to see this. So, for example, getting a mortgage right now, it's looking like lenders will see this as stick built, which means you can get a mortgage on it, but we don't have a gold stamp of approval. Right. And then also supply chain issues. So what we saw with COVID, that concerns a lot of people. What if I order a tiny home from China and it's half the price, it's almost as good quality, but then it's spends 6 months at the port, right? Versus if I hire a guy to build me a tiny home and he's building from raw materials, he's getting the wood from Washington State, he's getting the bricks from, Texas or whatever. And so I think there's less fear with something that we've been doing for 100 years, or 1,000 years, right?
What kind of timeline are you kind of looking at before, I think this is just a fascinating kind of shift in terms of property or, development of land. What kind of timeline do you feel is realistic to kind of start seeing this become more mainstream?
I would say in the next 5 years, it will. Let me say this. I'm not an expert and I don't have a crystal ball, but I would be very surprised in 5 to 10 years if new builds are not using all or some of this technology, because the time savings alone, I think, is such a game changer. Okay. So, yeah, I should have sent you guys some. We've got some presentations where we can show that these are they're not container houses. I don't want you guys to think that if you build an apartment building, all the ceilings are exactly 8 feet high and you have to walk through these little rooms.
Right.
You can remove walls and you can customize it however you want. And so you can have a ballroom. You can build a hotel and still have a ballroom, for example. And nobody will know that that it was 90% of it was built off site and then final assembly on site.
So walk me through the process. Say I'm a new client, I'm coming in, I'm going, hey, I want to build an apartment complex. What does that process look like with you guys?
You're catching us so early. Our first goal is use it ourselves and get all the bugs out of it, right? If you come to us right now and say, hey, I want to build a 2,000 unit building, we'll probably say, hey, let's talk in a year, right? If you come to us and say, hey, we want to build a 20 unit. Are you guys still there? I just got a call from my wife. Sorry, I should put it on.
Right. We cut it out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. The reason I didn't have it in Do Not Disturb is because my wire cutoff is in 30 minutes and I have 2 deals that are closing tomorrow. So I'm waiting for, I don't know if you guys.
Your wire cut off in 30 minutes? Really?
Yeah. Mercury. Do you guys have Mercury?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh, man. So it is an early wire cutoff, but that's literally the only disadvantage I've found. So Mercury has free wires. It has 5 million of FDIC insurance. You can mail checks from their platform. And when you mail a check, you can have a 6-page attachment with it. You can you can wire as much as you want for free. You can even, I think the lowest I've wired is $50. I'm sure you can wire 1 penny though.
5 mil FDIC insurance?
Because here's what they do. I feel like I'm scamming you guys.
You have to put a little disclaimer at the bottom of this episode.
It's an internet bank, and what they do is let's say you put $100,000 in,
yeah,
they send 5 to Goldman Sachs, they send 5,000 to JP Morgan, they send 5,000 to Chase, and it sits in fractional accounts.
Got it.
So if you just go to mercury.com, it's a legitimate bank. And the thing I like the most is that I can put employees in as users, and they can send and they can send money, they can send checks, and I can put the limit on what I'm comfortable with them sending without my approval. So it's usually $1,000, right? So if they're going to pay for someone's gas or they're going to buy or lead some dinner, I don't want to approve that. It's not worth my time. If they're going to wire, $20,000 somewhere, it comes to me, it hits my phone, which is why I didn't have my phone on Do Not Disturb. Hits my phone, it says, hey, Kelly's trying to wire $80,000 to fund XYZ deal. I I double check it, I click approve, and then it sends it out. And so you can really outsource pretty much all of your banking to people who actually are doing your deals for you.
Oh, that's
very
awesome,
cool.
man. I'll take a look at
Cool
that
resource.
for sure. You know?
I can't go. I'm like ruined forever because I had US Bank before. I used to have to stand in line to wire money.
I have
Now I
Chase.
could-
Yeah, I use that.
I could wire 400 grand now just through the app.
Yeah. Yeah. But Chase is annoying, man. It's like 100 grand I have to go in, you know? So,
Yeah.
so cool, man. I'll definitely take a look at that. So, man, it sounds like you're pioneering a new industry, which is exciting, but scary. You know what I mean?
And there's a lot of unknowns. And so,
Yeah.
I think what I need to get comfortable with saying that I don't know, right?
Oh yeah,
that we'll figure it out, because the truth is that if Boxable is the gold standard, or maybe they're the first mover, right? They haven't even figured out their own problems. So we are excited about our technology. We believe that it's superior, but we're not naive. We know that there's going to be a lot of kinks to work out of the system. I believe less with the product itself and more with supply chain and just building up a system that can handle a lot of volume.
So what's the exit, brother? Obviously, is it kind to compete or be bought out by a company like Boxable? Obviously, we know Uncle Elon has deep pockets. So what's kind of the end goal?
Yeah, we don't know yet. So we're not sure. If somebody bought us out like tomorrow, I think it would be a little bit of a disappointment. We do want to develop this into something. We want to grow it, right? But 5 years from now, maybe we're all really exhausted and it's worth a lot. Somebody approaches us, I think we would probably be open to that.
Well, right on, man.
So just for clarity, are you leaving the investment space altogether and put 100% of your attention on this and just keeping your existing notes or assets or whatever the case is?
No. So there's a whole project that we haven't talked about yet, which is if you guys go to ibuyland.org, that is a partnership with Jaron Barnes. Do you guys know Ari Tipster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just interviewed Seth last week on our podcast. Jaron Barnes was Seth's lieutenant. He was the co-host of the podcast, and he really was trained by Seth to really push out really great content. Jaron and his wife do land flips. Our average buy is 30, average exit is 60. Okay. I am the sole funder for all of their deals, and then also all of Jaron's students' deals. So Jaron runs a coaching program. So whenever their students need funding, they bring it to us, and then it's Rooster Capital, which is my funding company, funds those deals.
What does that look like for the client? What kind of terms are you providing them or his students? If somebody here is buying land, it's like, man, I need funding. They go to you. What could they expect?
Yeah. So for the students, it is a 50-50 split, and they get a lot of hand-holding with that split. So the student vets the deal, Jaron vets the deal, his wife Asia vets the deal, and then we also have a land specialized realtor that vets it. And then very often I'll look at it as well. So the student is getting a lot of hand-holding. A lot of times Jaron and his wife Asia will make calls on behalf of the student. So they get a lot of extra hand-holding that they wouldn't get with a normal funder who's more just says, hey, send us the due diligence. We'll take a look and we'll give you a yes or a no.
Okay. So you're just taking pure equity. You're not taking any fees or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, we take a split, and then obviously my cut is part of that 50%.
Okay.
So yeah, so Jaron and Asia do take a small arbitrage for their service. They do all of the, I don't know how many land deals you guys are doing per month, but it's a ton of work to manage those transactions just to deal with title companies, right? And so Asia does all of that. So from the student's perspective, they really just need to get it under contract, and then it's on autopilot from there. And then a few months later, they get paid for it.
Okay, so they give it to you under contract, and they're pretty much out of the equation after that.
Yeah, they'll stay involved just from a learning perspective, but in
Right.
reality, the one who's driving the car is Asia and Jared.
Interesting. Huh.
Are you looking for any more kind of relationships like that?
I am looking for cheap capital.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I'm looking for cheap capital. But I am not looking for more deals to fund because I have an exclusive agreement that I will not fund anyone else's deals, and he will not go to anyone else. So it's a marriage in a sense, and it's been wildly successful for both of us. I mean, imagine if all you want to do all day is do deals, right? And you've got this little bell on your desk, and you ring the bell, and every time you ring the bell, money comes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? So I'm the guy who it's like a duck, calm on the surface, and then the little feet are paddling underneath. I'm the guy who panics and finds that money, right? It's usually my own money, but sometimes I have to find it somewhere. And I'm the one who sends that money. So all they worry about is doing deals. They don't have to worry about finding, like I just found 127K yesterday with one phone call. But it was like Hail Mary phone call. I didn't know if he would want to do it with me. But they don't have to worry about that. They just get it under contract. They talk with the realtor, they list it. So they've outsourced that whole stressor to me.
Are you raising a lot of private capital? I know you said that you were, using a lot of your own particular funds, but when you're raising, is it usually within your circle or is it somebody outside your circle you're bringing in?
It's always within my circle, and it's almost always another land flipper because it's a lot of work to educate someone about how this business works. And even once you educate them, they still like money. A dollar is not worth a dollar, right? So if Frank sends me 100 grand, but he's stressed out and he texts me every week and asks how it's doing, and
Yeah.
then Mike, you send me 100 grand and you don't text me in 3 months, there's a different value on that,
Yeah.
right? So I want stress-free money. And the reason that Asia and Jaron love working with me is because I send them stress-free money. I send it, I know they've done their work, and I leave them alone. I let them do their thing. I don't ask for updates. Other funders, they ask for these super complicated spreadsheets you have to fill out. You have to send weekly updates. It's an insane amount of high maintenance some of these guys ask for, and they think they're being prudent and good businessmen, but in reality, they're just pestering their operators.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think most people that start in this business is always friends and family first. And then, from my experience, it kind of branches off from there. You know what I mean? You do somebody like for us, we have probably about 3 or 4 million that we have access to. And it's always from referrals. It's never a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always because you did
Yeah.
somebody right and they tell their
Yeah.
family and their friends and stuff like that. And
Right.
you nailed it when it comes to stress money. The person that like contacts you over and over again, you're like, let me get you your money back. let's let's part as friends.
Quietly fire them, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. So for you on, if you could give somebody a tip on that's brand new and they're like, man, I need to raise some capital, how would you go about it?
I would get on the groups. So in the land flipping space, there's all kinds of groups, with 5 to 10,000 members. Usually, a lot of times they are education platforms. So like Land Geek has one where I know Land Geek Culture. I was just kicked out of that group, by the way, because I posted about a mastermind we're doing in Korea. So somehow they saw that as competing. I don't know if hosting an event on the other side of the world is a competing business model. But anyways, Land Geek, I know they're okay with posting wholesales. They're okay with a marketplace happening on their page, right? So you can post on there, hey, I'm a newer land flipper. I've done X amount of deals. I'm looking for a funder to partner with. And what I encourage people to do is don't just try to shop around for the best rate and then pick and choose who you find for funding, try to find a guy who maybe he's not the cheapest money, but he's the most consistent. And when you ring that little bell, he's going to send money. Okay. Because you don't want to have to worry about who's going to fund your next deal. You want to know that, hey, John Smith, no matter what deal I have, he's going to fund my A+ deals plus my C- deals. As long as I don't bring him garbage, he's going to fund it because he understands that the relationship is more important than per deal.
Dude, that's so bold.
Right, think about it. Like, if you, as a funder, reject, let's say some guy brings you 5 good deals. Okay, he has a track record, right? And then he brings you a deal that you're just not sure on, and you say no to that. What is that going to do to the relationship? Right? It's gonna. He might not come back to you, right? So fund that C- deal. And if it is mediocre returns like you thought it would be, maybe have that discussion, but see the big picture and know that he's going to bring you his home runs too.
Yeah, it's all about reputation, right? And the ability to execute. So to your point, I see investors, like stressing out over 1 or 2 points or 3 points. I'm like, man, that person is for sure funding, and you don't have to worry about it. It's a cost of doing business, because I've had situations where you're going to closing and the funds aren't there, right?
Yeah.
And you're stressing, and man, that is, you would be happy to pay 2 or 3 more points just to make sure that never happens.
Yeah, I've had to make a shift, Frank and Mike, to see the relationships as assets. Relationships are not, you don't shop around for relationships, right? You create this inner circle. So for example, last week I was short on a deal. I text he's actually my bookkeeper. I text Steve, hey Steve, I need 16K like right now. Can you send it? There's no contract. We didn't even talk like interest rate, right? He sends me 16K. I used it for a week. I just sent it back to him today. I sent him another $1,000 to say, hey, thanks. Really appreciate it. That's the kind of trust you have to build up, right? And these relationships are actually the best part of my net worth, because these guys, they're going to be rock and rolling the rest of their lives. And I'm on speed dial now, right? So I can call them and access any part of their network that I want.
I think what's really cool is that, when people talk about lending, I think there's a very common limiting belief in this space is, oh, you need 6 figures of capital before anybody will take you seriously or bring you deals. To the people out there who maybe just have, a couple bucks sitting in the bank, what does that number need to look like for them to maybe start having these conversations with potential operators?
You mean from like a funder's perspective?
Right.
Well, there's so you've been exposed to Travis King, right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I mean, there's education circles like Land Geek that teach you to buy at 1,000, sell at 3,000.
Sure.
Right. So you could start there. It's not sexy stuff. You might make like $500 or whatever, but you got to start somewhere. Cut your teeth on the small stuff so you get bigger. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, wiring out 50 grand would have been, traumatic for me. Now, like I wire 6-figure amounts all the time, and sometimes I don't even double check the wire instructions, because it's not scary anymore. Right.
Oh man, no way, dude. At 6 figures, I always double check the wiring, the numbers. That's awesome.
Hopefully this doesn't make me look bad. So if any of Jaren's students are watching, we do have 2 sets of eyes. Kelly looks at it and I look at it.
Yeah.
But we accidentally sent $5,000 earnest money to the wrong title company. And then the correct title company is like, hey, where is it? And we sent them the receipt. We're like, hey, we sent it last week. It was Premier Title versus Pioneer Title. So we had to go to the other company, and we're like, hey, we need our money back.
With that being said, I just sent $21,000 to the wrong vendor too, like 3 days ago. So luckily it's somebody that I had a relationship with. But yeah, I always geek out, because I'm one of those guys that I'm not built to cross T's and dot I's. That's not really my nature. So when it comes to like big time money, I always try to like double or triple check.
Yeah.
makes y'all feel any better. And I have a story about wiring money to a coach that I hired, and it added an extra 0 without the decimal. So I was like, it went from 5 figures to 6 figures real quick. Thankfully, I knew the person, and he was like, "Frank, I don't think you did this right." I was like, "I don't think so either." But it
happens.
The silver lining here, what I'm thinking is like what's always initially uncomfortable is the more and more you do it, it just becomes part of your process, becomes part of your general routine. And I think I'm hearing more and more people like who have gone through the business, have reached success, have this capital sitting around, have always gone into the lending vein, right? And what advice do you have to people who are kind of in that grind right now? Like I know a couple of people who are a very, very good friend of mine is a day trader back when he was in college. I think he was like net negative 20K by the time like the firm let him go. And he was like, you know what? He got into land investing and he's still doing that now, looking to raise capital. What would you say is a good like natural next step for these guys who are in the middle of the land grind, doing the 1,000 to 3,000s, the 10 to for 35? Like, what's the advice you have for them? What's that light at the end of the tunnel you can tell them just like, hey, start paying attention to this. Don't just get back on the hamster wheel every day.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just going to be you solving your own problems. So the way I started funding was I had 100K sitting there. So my first business was spitting out too much money. I didn't have the bandwidth to toss that money back into the machine. And so 100K sitting there, I'm in the desert for the Army Reserves. I had like 1 bar signal. I was sweating because you have to wear your full camouflage uniform, plus your helmet, plus your body armor. And it's just miserable. And then that same month, Peter Nukasani, one of my friends, he bought 800 properties in 1 month. And after that, I said, what am I doing? I think I made $5,000 from the Army Reserves in 3 weeks. And Peter bought 800 properties. I was not happy. So I get a call from Ajay Sharma. He says, hey, there's this guy named Jaron Barnes. Do you know him? Yeah, I know Jaron. Jaron has a deal for 84,000 and you need to like send the money right now if you want to do it. And I trusted Ajay, I trusted Jaron. I heard about the deal and I'm like, you know what? If I don't fund this deal, for sure that money will stay in that account and not grow. That is a guarantee, right? I know it's not a scam because there's so much trust built up. And so I sent the money and I didn't know how much I had in the account. I thought it was 100. It was actually 85. So I sent out 84. I had 85 in the account because I had to call it in, right? And that is how I started funding because I wanted to exercise excess cash. So if you're listening to this or you're watching this and your business is spitting out too much cash, you need to start exercising that. Don't just let it sit there. You don't need a cushion. If you have good friends and good family, that's your safety net. Okay. You don't need an emergency fund like Dave Ramsey. You don't need any of that. I often have $98 in my account. Okay. I'll have $250,000 one day, and the next day it's gone. So when you exercise all that capital, it's going to start growing. And yes, it's going to be more stressful, but you're also going to grow much faster because that excess money is going to be growing while you're doing your land business. Start exercising into somebody else's business as well.
Well, I think you're right on one thing in the sense that cash sitting in a bank account is just diminishing value, right? Especially with inflation and stuff like that. And I think you have to put it to work, be in lending or buying hard assets or something. That's really the only way to build wealth. You're never going to save your way to wealth, right?
Right.
But not everybody is built like that. Right. Not everybody's built like, hey, I could have $100 in my account and I'm okay. Like and I don't, so I get that. And I agree with that in the sense that everybody's got their own thing. What I want to talk to you about is this, because as entrepreneurs, we have a much higher threshold for stress than the average person. Right. And we've gone through, every one of us has gone through something that's probably buckled our knees or worse. Tell me maybe one or a story that sticks out in your mind that you're like, shit, you know what I mean? I'm in trouble. And then how'd you get through that process?
Yeah. So, hindsight, you always realize that you overreacted. I got a call. It was probably 2 years ago by now. I got a call from a community in Missouri. I had done a ton of deals in that community. It was an HOA, and they call me and they say, "Hey, Drew, one of your borrowers," because I sell on terms, right? They say, "Hey, one of your borrowers brought in all kinds of gravel trucks while it was raining, and they tore up our dirt roads, and you're liable for that." And it's like 3 miles worth of road. So at the time, I didn't know, what is that, like $250,000? Is it $4,000? Is it 40 grand? I had no idea. So, I always assume the worst, right? So that was a time where I just felt very low, and it felt like someone kicked me in the nuts because I couldn't really control it, right? So the borrower didn't ask permission. She didn't ask permission from me or the HOA. She's supposed to fill out a form to say, "Hey, I want to bring in these construction vehicles." And HOA, according to them, they would have said no because it's raining, right? Because it's a gated community. So long story short, nothing happened. I actually went out there. There was barely any damage. But it was just one of those like emotional dips where you actually briefly consider, should I keep doing this? What if I get sued and everything I've worked for is now gone, right? In hindsight, and when I'm thinking clearly, obviously it's worth it because most of us would do this for free. Let's say you lived in some commune and you ate good food and you were clothed every day and you had no needs, right? What would you do every day? You'd probably still do deals because it's really fun, right? It's like a 4-dimensional game of chess. Okay.
Right.
You guys played Settlers of Catan? It's like a nerdy game.
Yeah, I've never played, but I hear people love it.
So in the game, you have to convince people to trade resources with you, right? That's all we're doing is we're playing a massive board game, and I'm having a blast. To me, it's like this massive psychology game where I convince people to part with resources, whether it's real estate or money, and I catch that spread, right? I'm not tricking people, but I bring value and I catch that spread. And if I play the game better than everyone else, I get more points, right?
Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. And I think you're right. I mean, life is a game. Business is a game, right? And it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. And I think that's where the problem is. A lot of people think it has to be a zero-sum game, but it's really more, to your point, about relationships. That's how you grow up.
Yeah. I want to share this with you guys and with your audience. I was just at a conference where one of the speakers, he said, it's not a zero-sum game, and here's how I can prove it. Imagine you have an island with 10 families, and every day the 10 husband fathers go out to go fishing, right? And they're casting one line at a time. And then one day, one of the wives says, "Hey, what if I invent this thing called a net? I sew these ropes together and I let my husband try that." Because we all know the best ideas come from our wives, right? So one of the husbands goes out and he catches 10 times more fish than everyone else, right? He comes back to the village. He can now sell them for 1/10 the cost, puts all the other 9 guys out of business, right? So a corrupt system would say we need to tax the guy who put everyone else out of business, right? But a functioning system that believes in capitalism, this is actually what would happen. One of the 9 unemployed guys, he would say, "You know what? I want to learn how to farm." Another guy says, "Hey, I want to learn how to raise sheep." Another guy starts remodeling huts. Another guy builds faster boats. And before you know it, the pie is increasing as a whole. It's not you have to divide it up, right? So we can, like AI is very scary for a lot of people, and AI will absolutely wipe out some jobs, correct? Those people are going to go find other jobs and they're going to go master other skill sets, right? So the pie is always increasing as a whole, and that's why it's not zero sum. That's why everyone can win.
That's a great explanation, man. Like that's honestly the first time I've heard it that way. And I don't know why it just brought like some peace of mind to me. It's very true. But at the same time, it comes down to the individual to seek those opportunities, right? Versus kind of staying in that victim mindset of, the AI took my business, or that guy who invented the net. Why didn't I think of that? It's like, well, you're kind of put into a new position now. It's like, what are you going to make the most of it now? So I really do. That was really well put, man.
Eventually somebody's going to make invent a robot that cooks for you, right? And cleans for you. It's going to put my housekeeper out of business, but she'll go find something else to do, and she'll add value to the economy in a different way.
But more importantly, that robot's going to create other jobs, right? Somebody's going to have to build that robot. Somebody's going to have to, ship it. Somebody's going to have to whatever. So it's not an elimination completely. It's just a shift to something else, right? Growth. So I think that most, of us has a growth mindset, because you have to have that to survive in this space. But there's a lot of people that are trying to go through the grind, and they're in that 9 to 5, and it's hard for them to have that growth mindset. And truthfully, a lot of the educators, when you talk to them, when they have students, the first thing they got to tackle is that mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to go from that 9 to 5 to somebody that has more of an abundance, and hey, you can do this yourself. So I think that's
the hardest part is the mindset. Nobody knows it. So if some 22-year-old came up to you and said, hey, how do I be successful? You're going to give them all those foundational books, right? How to win friends and influence people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's not sexy stuff, but that's the building blocks of a mindset. Most land flipping coaches, and Mike, you probably know this, they will not coach new students, at least one-on-one, because there's too much mindset stuff to work through. Jaron Barnes is one of the few coaches I know who will coach brand new students from the get-go. And he says more than half of the time he just spends helping them improve their mindset. It's not even about like learning what buttons to click or what markets to mail to. It's about how to think differently.
Yeah. 100%, man. So, hey, listen, what are you working on right now? Well, you already told us what you're working on right now that you're excited about. Where can people find you? What IG, is there another platform that you prefer?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I believe my Instagram is Drew Haney 318. My Facebook is currently Andrew Haney. Possibly by the time you're listening to this, it might be switched to Drew Haney. Just look for white guy with Asian wife, 2 cute daughters.
That's the SEO you guys are targeting right now. That's the keyword search, guys, FYI.
You can email me, drew@drew-haney.com. That URL will be live soon, but the email is good to go right now. I don't have anything to sell. I've invited people to reach out to me on other podcasts, and then they do. And then I realize I'm like, what do we want? What are we going to talk about? Because I don't have anything to sell.
I have nothing to offer you.
Cheap money.
Wisdom.
Cheap money. Do you got cheap money?
He can't do cheap money. He's got an agreement.
People often ask me to coach them, and I don't want to do it because it's a ton of work. But hey, if you've got deals you want to bring me, or I don't know, you just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you.
All right.
There you go, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Man, this has been such a cool journey in terms of learning about where you're coming from and where you're going. Best of luck to you with Circle Stone Capital. I think what you have there is very unique, and I'm excited to see kind of what you guys do out there in Tucson. And obviously with your partnerships within the land space, if you guys are interested in kind of getting started in that, a few of the references that Drew gave out, we'll be sure to kind of find those contacts, drop them in the description. Thank you guys so much for being here today, listening in. Hope you guys learned something. We really got into capital, got into box homes, got into the mindset of kind of what it takes to shift when the world around us is changing. So I really appreciate your time and insights today, Drew, and best of luck on your journey. And we hope to see more of you, man.
Yeah, likewise, gentlemen.
Appreciate you. Let's keep in touch, brother.
All right. Yep. Take care, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Take care. Bye.
So that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you received value from this episode. If so, please share this podcast with your friends so we can help more people just like you. Also, hook up with us on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at Real Talks. That's REIL Talks. So until next time, keep it cool and keep it real.